Let's now speak to the Latin America correspondent for the Revolutionary Communist Party, Jorge Martin. Thanks indeed for joining us. This is probably quite a sad week for you as a big Maduro fan. What's your response?
I am not a big Maduro fan, but you don't need to be a big Maduro fan to be outraged at what just happened over the weekend. Here we have U.S. imperialism going in to another country, which is allegedly a sovereign country, and kidnapping the sitting head of state. This is completely outrageous. And I'm not interested in discussing the military details of this operation. This is a basic question. Even you don't need to be a communist. I'm a communist, but you don't need to be a communist to be outraged at this. You just need to be a consistent Democrat. By what right does the United States go into another country?
Who's the consistent Democrat here?
And turn it into an energy colony, as your correspondent just spoke.
I hear you there, but if you're a Democrat, then you wouldn't really support the leader who's just been deposed, because he shouldn't really be there in the first place, because he didn't really win the election. So if you
this is nothing to do with elections. Trump has just Trump has just threatened the democratically elected president of Colombia and the democratically elected president of Mexico, about whom there's no doubt these elections have been not contested by anyone. And he's also said, you are next in line. Unless you submit to U.S. designs and diktats, you are next in line. This is about imperialist bullying.
Okay.
It's not about democracy.
I hear you, but that is a warning. But Maduro
is a warning. Of course, it's a warning of what?
I'm sure
it's a warning of military intervention.
Well, it's a warning.
Against two democratically elected
He hasn't
leaders.
said what it is. You know Donald Trump. He hasn't said what it is.
He has said.
He hasn't specific. He hasn't been specific.
No, he specifically.
The point is, if you are,
to the leader of Colombia, Gustavo Petro, he said, you are a drug trafficker and you are next in line.
But isn't he entitled? Okay, so on the matter of democracy, Maduro. Hang on, wait. On the word of on democracy, Maduro was not running a democratic regime, was he? He didn't win the election. He actually just took it and carried on, even though he wasn't elected as leader. So that's the first thing. It is. And
can I just say, over the month of December, Trump entertained at his official residence the king, the crown prince of Saudi Arabia, bin Salman, who's never won any elections. There are no elections in Saudi Arabia. That's why I'm saying this has nothing to do with democracy or whether
do you not see
Maduro
a difference?
Won an election or not. Whether Maduro accepts.
Do you not see a difference between? Do you not see a difference between Saudi Arabia, a country that has never been a democracy, where there is a legitimate head of state, crown prince, with whom we have diplomatic relations and all the rest of it, and a country like Venezuela that only a decade or so ago had legitimate elections, that had a democratic society that lasted multiple generations, and that democratic society was snatched away by a socialist military, in effect, coup, with Maduro clinging on to power even though 80% of his people voted against him, with the backing of the military, who he then gave lucrative drug smuggling paths to.
Can I just say, in 2002, April, the United States organized a military coup in Venezuela against President Chavez. President Chavez won 19 elections and referendums in the time he was in power. There was no doubt that he was a democratically elected president. That didn't stop the United States from carrying out a coup. So the reason for these coups and military interventions is nothing to do with democracy. Since when is the United States been interested in democracy anywhere? The reason is to do with two things. One, oil. Venezuela has the largest proven oil reserves anywhere in the world. And number two, China. The United States has said in writing in the national security strategy that Trump published in the month of November that they want to kick out all non-hemispheric actors from the Western Hemisphere, which they consider the backyard. And your correspondent has spoken about the Monroe Doctrine. This is what this is about. It's nothing to do with democracy in Venezuela. It's to do with the U.S. domination of resources and infrastructure in Latin America. That's why I'm against.
But Donald Trump hasn't said that it wasn't to do with oil. He's completely admitted that it's to do with oil. He also said it's to do with drugs trafficking.
Exactly.
And if that is part of the reasoning...
There's no drugs trafficking, that's just an excuse.
But he is within rights to protect the American interests and do what is necessary to do that. And if there is a problem with drug trafficking and a problem with oil, and remember the Americans... Remember that the Americans had their... Well, the Americans, didn't they have lots of oil fields in Venezuela? And then they were kicked out of Venezuela when Maduro came in. That is right. That did happen. Yes, that is true. Not true. OK, well, what's your version of reality?
No. The oil was nationalized in Venezuela in 1976. Not under Maduro. If you can't get your facts straight,
I didn't say no. I didn't say that. No. I didn't say that.
You said the oil fields were taken away.
Yes, from the Americans. There were American companies. American companies had oil companies within Venezuela. When Maduro came in, they were pretty much kicked out.
Do you know? Can I ask? No. This is nothing to do with Maduro. I'm telling you, the oil was nationalized in Venezuela in 1976. This is decades before Maduro.
But there were American companies in Venezuela before Maduro.
Do you know why Venezuelan U.S. companies are not operating in Venezuela? Because the United States imposed an oil embargo on Venezuela. Not because they were kicked out. Chevron is operating in Venezuela under a license from the United States. The United States in 2019 imposed oil sanctions on Venezuela, and that's why there are no oil companies in U.S. oil companies in Venezuela, other than Chevron, which was given a special license.
Can I ask you, why do you think it is that the United States... One second. Why do you think it is that the United States... One second, I'll let you come back, but you've just spoken. Why do you think it is that the United States can operate a 6.5-minute operation, go in and get out really quickly? We're not talking about a decade-long intervention here. We're not talking about Iraq or Afghanistan. We're talking about quick, successive, kinetic action that removes one man, and suddenly they think, and I think they have right to think, that the country can run smoothly and democratically after that. Doesn't that point to a fact that is different from other interventions? That actually it is the Venezuelan people who were desperate for something like this to happen, desperate for a tyrant to be removed, and frankly, the fact that the Americans don't have boots on the ground today, that they've got out so quickly, that it actually looks like this country could return to the democracy it enjoyed before the socialist tyranny of Maduro, and indeed to some extent Chavez before him, that they could return to a democratic society without the Americans.
Can I say, the United States used 150 aircraft. They had 25% of the U.S. Navy, including the USS Gerald Ford, in the region. They conducted a campaign of 6 months of military bullying against Venezuela, killing over 100 people in small boats. And during the intervention, they also killed about 80...
They were drug smugglers, weren't they?
No, they're not drug smugglers. It's not been proven. If they're drug smugglers, why don't they produce the evidence?
It's a strange sort of trip to make from Venezuela to the United States, unless you're bringing...
And they were entering illegally anyway. They weren't coming
No, they were not going to the United States. They were not going to the United States. Many of these boats were going from Venezuela to Trinidad and Tobago, which is just a few hundred meters away from Venezuela.
So
some of them...
Listen, Jorge Martin, thank you very much. We have to go. We really have to leave it there, but I'd love to talk to you for longer another time. Thank you very much.
Can I ask one last question? By what right?
Sorry, we've run out of time. Thank you so much. Apologies.
We will have to get Jorge back at some point.
We will, really, because we need to clean up a few things here.